Do you ever get frustrated as a business owner trying to figure out how to get to the next step? Like, you know how to get to wherever you're currently at, let's say 500,000 or a million or 2 million, but you don't know how to get to the next level. And by the way, how do you need to change as a business owner? Like, how does your role change as you're continuing to grow your revenues? What does that look like? If you've never had anyone explain that to you, or you've ever been frustrated by it, I think you're really going to enjoy this video, because I'm going to walk you through what I think are the 10 different stages a business owner has to go through as their company grows. And if you don't make the change, then you're probably going to keep your company stuck. So if you'd like to keep growing, then you're going to want to know what these are and then figure out what the next step is for you, and then make those changes, because then you'll bring your company up to that level, and then you'll need to make the change to the next level, etc. And that way you will not be the primary bottleneck for your company. So let me go to the computer and let's walk you through these. And by the way, this diagram here is a free download. You don't have to opt in or anything. Just look in the description and click on the link and you'll be able to get a copy of this. So when I think about a company in BizScalers, we think about these 4 different stages. As you can see here, the startup phase, the grow-up phase, the scale-up phase, and the step-up phase. And these tend to correlate with revenue numbers. Now, your revenue numbers may be different. Your employee numbers might be different. Construction company is very different than an accounting firm, which is very different than a SaaS company, which is different than a manufacturing company. Like, they're all different. So your numbers may be plus or minus some delta, but it's probably pretty close, and you're still going to have to go through these 4 stages. And I built this on the assumption that the revenue per employee is somewhere in the 100 to 125K range. So your numbers may be lower than that. They may be significantly higher than that, but that's how I got to these numbers here. So the startup phase is usually between 0 and 250. The grow up phase between 250K to 1 million. The scale up from 1 million to 10 million, and then the step up from 10 million on up to billions. Right? Now, for a business owner, these are the 10 different stages that you normally go through. You can see on the right-hand side. So at the beginning, you're just the employee. You might call yourself the owner, but you don't have any employees. You might think of yourself as the CEO or the president, but you're really an employee. Like, that's it. It's just you. Then the next step up is the outsourcer. That's where you're starting to maybe outsource and maybe bring on a VA from India or the Philippines or something like that. You might have a part-time employee, maybe even one full-time employee, but you're primarily the one driving everything, and you're outsourcing tasks to those people. Once you get past that 250 range, then you're moving to the place where you're now moving into the employer stage. At the employer stage, now you're actually probably hiring some full-time people, but you're still directing them. They're still looking to you to be the one who's going to tell them what they should be doing. They really don't own their positions at this point. When you get to the 500K level, somewhere around that level, usually at that point, you start having maybe 6, 7, 8 employees, and you realize that you need to start building teams. Like, you can't have everyone directly coming to you, and they can't be asking you all the time. And so you start building a team of people. You might call them a manager or director or something like that, but they're not really at that level. But they actually have 1 or 2 people underneath them. So you're starting to build teams. Everyone is not reporting directly to you. So that's a good stage. You're no longer just an employer. You're now a team builder, which is awesome. Now, once you start building teams, then you can start moving into the $1 million plus mark. And at that point, you start becoming more of a leader. So you're starting to get more defined leadership. People have more than maybe 1 report to them. They might have 2 or 3, maybe 4 people underneath them. And so now you're leading and directing a team of people. You're getting removed from some of the day-to-day operations, but you're probably still pretty engaged in what's happening. You're leading the team, and that team of people is starting to lead other people. So that's a really good place. And that'll probably get you typically from that $1 to $2 million range. From 2 to 4, though, is kind of no man's land. It's a really difficult time, and typically you usually have to change out some of your leaders because they're not really the quality of professional leader. They don't have the capacity to really function at kind of a C-suite level. They might have been a bookkeeper, but they're not going to be a CFO kind of person. They might have been able to handle marketing, but they're not really a chief marketing officer kind of person. So 2 to 4 tends to be a place where you're going to have to change out some of your people. Hopefully some of them will make it, but some of them you're going to have to change out because you want a more professional level kind of leader. So you're now at that kind of executive level leadership. You're starting to build out a top team of C people. They're not all at that level. But once you get past that 4 million mark, typically you have actually a C-suite. And then you can actually be a CEO. So a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs call themselves CEOs when they're much smaller, but they really don't have an executive team of C-suite of people. So they don't have a CMO, a CFO, COO, etc. But by the time you get to 4, 5, 6 million, you're probably going to have a professional level of management that's working here. And then you can actually be a real CEO, because a real CEO is not primarily internally really focused, they're primarily externally focused. So when you get to that 6, 7, $8 million range, you're in a position where the day-to-day is all off your plate. You're only focusing on the future, and you're primarily focusing on external things rather than internal things. So those are kind of the 7 primary stages that you go through as a business owner. Now, the cool part is once you start hitting, we're calling it the 10 million, the step-up range, you have 3 pretty big options other than just selling the company. You can continue to be the CEO, and you can be the CEO for as long as you want. But remember, you're not doing day-to-day operational stuff. You're now moving into the place where you're primarily externally focused, and you've got this incredibly wonderful professional level team that basically handles all the stuff for the company, which is awesome. So you can maintain and be the CEO for as long as you want. You may actually bring in a CEO at this point, and at that point you become a board member, and so you become the chairman of the board. And at that point, the CEO is doing the functions you were doing, or you might decide, hey, I don't even want to be on the board anymore. I simply want to graduate to just owning equity, and I just want to be an investor. And at that point, other people are running the whole company, and you're vacationing wherever you want to go. So those are kind of the 10 stages of business owner development, and you just need to figure out which one are you at right now and which one do you need to move to next. So if you're at the team builder stage, know that you're going to have to move to a leadership. So that means I need to start building into these people right now who are kind of managers and helping them actually become leaders, because to get to that next level, I need to be leading a group of leaders, not a group of managers. So whatever the level is, figure out where you are, figure out the next thing, and then how can you begin to be that next person now, because you'll be able to leave your company from where it is now to where it needs to be much faster if you do that. So I hope you found this really helpful. Again, you can download this image right below in the description. If you want to know more about building a self-operating business, click on the link about the self-operating business playbook. I think you'll like that as well. And until next week, to your accelerated success, Bruce out.